You know the feeling, right? You're just staring at a task you absolutely have to do, but you just can't start. So you clean the kitchen, you check your email, you do literally anything else. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into the neuroscience behind that exact feeling and uncover a really powerful, kind of counterintuitive fix that might just change the way you tackle procrastination forever. Okay, so let's get right into it. The usual advice we hear is, just wait for motivation to strike, or maybe do a smaller, easier task to get the ball rolling. But let's be honest, how often does that actually work? Waiting just pushes you closer to a stressful deadline, and doing an easy task can easily become just another way to procrastinate. So, what is actually going on inside our brains? Well, it turns out this isn't about being lazy at all. It's about neuroscience, and specifically a molecule you've definitely heard of, dopamine. See, when we're stuck procrastinating, we are often in what's called a dopamine trough. Just picture it like a deep valley of low motivation. We're literally in a neurochemical state that makes it hard to get going on things. Now, here is where it gets really fascinating. There's this key principle from the work of neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman, and it says that the speed at which you can climb out of that motivation valley, that trough, is directly related to how steep the sides of the valley are. This is the whole secret, and trust me, it's the exact opposite of what you'd think. This visual here shows exactly what's going on. When you do those low-effort things to put off your work or you just wait around, you're creating a really shallow valley. And the climb back up to your normal motivation level, it's slow, it's gradual. But if you create a steep valley, your brain chemistry is literally designed to bounce you back to baseline way, way faster. So the goal isn't to avoid the valley, it's actually to make it steeper so you can get out quicker. So, this brings us right back to that common advice we've all heard a million times. Just do one tiny, easy thing. Send one email, write one sentence. The idea is that it'll create momentum. And sure, sometimes that works, but when you're really, truly stuck in a trough, it often just doesn't give you enough of a jolt. And this is the paradox. What if, instead of trying to find the path of least resistance, the fastest way out of procrastination is to intentionally look for a moment of high resistance? What if the key is to lean into something that feels even more difficult than the task you're avoiding in the first place? And here it is, the core insight from Dr. Huberman himself. To get out of that trough quickly, you need to intentionally and briefly put yourself into a state of safe discomfort. The whole idea is to deliberately do something effortful to create that steep dopamine trough we were just talking about, which then triggers a super rapid rebound in your motivation. Okay, now this part is incredibly important, so let's be crystal clear. When we say discomfort, we are absolutely not talking about anything that causes physical or psychological harm. This isn't about punishment. It's about choosing a safe activity that simply requires a high degree of effort to get yourself to do it. The scientific term for this feeling of resistance is limbic friction. It's that internal ugh feeling you get when you think about doing something you really don't want to do. So the technique here is to find a safe activity that has super high limbic friction for you personally, something your brain really pushes back against, and then just do it for a very short period of time. So, what does a high friction task actually look like? Well, for a lot of people, the perfect example is a cold shower. I mean, most of us just cringe at the thought, right? That means it has a high limbic friction. Doing that for just 30 to 60 seconds is enough to create that steep drop, causing your motivation to rebound super quickly. In Dr. Huberman's words, you need to find something that for you really sucks and yet is safe. So here's how you can actually put this into practice. It's a simple 5-step process. First, just acknowledge that you're stuck. You're in the trough. Second, choose your safe, high-friction activity. Third, do it, but just briefly to steepen that trough. Fourth, you'll feel yourself rebound to your baseline motivation much faster. And fifth, with your brain totally reset, you can now go and tackle that original goal. You know, what's so empowering about this is that it's not another trick that just tells you to try harder or have more willpower. No. Instead, you're using a fundamental mechanism of your brain's own dopamine system. You're working with your neurochemistry, not fighting against it, to consciously shift your mental state. So that leaves us with one final thought. We know a cold shower works for a lot of people, but the principle here is universal. It could be a quick burst of intense exercise or holding a difficult yoga pose for a minute. The real question is, what's a safe, high-effort task that makes you cringe just a little? What's your personal motivation reset button?